Alright, we've got to talk about what happened last night because it was awesome. And yes, I'm talking about Game 4 of the Calder Cup Western Conference Final between the Abbotsford Canucks and the Texas Stars, but I'll get to that later in the video because first, I want to talk about Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. Only the fourth time since the NHL expanded in 1967, the same two teams have faced off in the Stanley Cup Final in back-to-back years. The Panthers are aiming to become the first team to win back-to-back Stanley Cups since their state rivals, the Tampa Bay Lightning, did it back in 2020 and 2021. And the Oilers are looking to win their city its first Stanley Cup since 1990 and to be the first Canadian team in general to win the whole thing since the Canadiens did it back in 1993. And I'm sure they'd just like some revenge for what happened last season as well, so yeah. It was clear which team was more fired up at the start of the game because it only took Edmonton's second best player, Leon Draisaitl, 1 minute to open the scoring. 1-0 Oilers. Vancouver native Evander Kane hit Aaron Ekblad. Former Vancouver Canuck Vasily Podkolzin hit Eetu Luosterainen. Jake Wallman hit Jesper Bokvist. Connor McDavid hit the post. Then, a shot by Panthers forward Carter Verhaeghe deflected off Sam Bennett's skate and into the net to tie the game at 1, but for some strange reason, the Oilers coaching staff decided to challenge the goal for goaltender interference. Did they not see that it was the skate of their own defenseman, Brett Kulak, that incidentally tripped Bennett into the crease? I don't know what they were thinking, and neither did the refs, because after a laughably fast review, it was deemed a good goal and the Oilers were handed a delay of game penalty for a failed coach's challenge, and of course, the Panthers scored on the ensuing power play. It was Brad Marchand. 2-1 Florida. Panthers goalie Sergei Bobrovsky made a save, Stuart Skinner made a save, Bobrovsky made another save, Bennett went after Draisaitl, and then he scored. 3-1 Florida. This is when my expectations really started clashing, because if I based what I thought was going to happen next on all the Panthers games I've watched so far this postseason, I probably would have said game over. 3-1 Florida halfway through a playoff game? It's over. However, if I were to base it on all the Oilers games I've watched so far this postseason, I'd say the complete opposite. In other words, this game was either going to be a 4-3 win for the Oilers or a 7-1 win for the Panthers. And luckily for Edmonton, this is when guys like Podkolzin, Janmark, Kane, and of course, Skinner really stepped up to keep the score the same and avoid letting the game slip out of their reach. If it weren't for all those guys I just mentioned, this absolute clapper that Victor Arvidsson blasted past Bob's pads wouldn't have slapped so hard. That made it 3-2 Florida heading into the final frame, and that's when I knew exactly what to expect. We were about to watch the Oilers win 4-3, the Panthers just didn't know it yet. And that's when a guy by the name of Connor McJesus McDavid stepped up for his team. Here he is in the third period, making a ridiculously silky, saucy, backhanded pass right to the tape of the recently healed Mattias Ekholm, who then lasered it past Bobrovsky to tie the game at 3. And then here he is in overtime, sending another silky-ass saucer pass right to the tape of Leon Draisaitl, who made no mistake one-timing it past Bobrovsky for his second of the night. Edmonton won Game 1 4-3 to take a 1-0 series lead, and man, what a game. If the rest of this series is anything like what we just witnessed, I think we're in for quite a treat. Okay, now let's talk about Game 4 of the Calder Cup Western Conference Final between the Abbotsford Canucks and the Texas Stars. But first, let me give you some context. As I mentioned in my previous video, the Abbotsford Canucks, aka the Baby Canucks, have been kicking ass in the Calder Cup playoffs. In round 1, they were up against the Utah Mammoths AHL affiliate team, the Tucson Roadrunners. Abbey forward Sammy Blais really stood out in this series. He was piling up goals and throwing his weight around. It was awesome. Max Sasson, who I really believe will be an NHL player someday, also shined bright in this series. It was a best of 3 and the Baby Canucks came out on top. Round 2 was a best of 5 and they were up against Seattle's AHL affiliate team, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and man did it look like these two teams hated each other. It was rough. The amount of post-whistle rough stuff in this series was insane. They were getting into it with one another after what at times felt like every stoppage in play. It was some good old-fashioned hate-fueled hockey, and yet they still shook hands after the Canucks won it in Game 4. Nice. Round 3 was against the Colorado Eagles, the Avalanche's affiliate team, and this one was a lot tighter of a series than the previous two. It went back and forth, starting with a 2-0 win for Abbotsford in Game 1, Colorado took Game 2 5-3, then the Canucks won the next one in overtime, and then the Eagles avoided elimination by winning Game 4 3-1, but then, almost like they were just playing with their food before eating it, in a winner-moves-on Game 5, Abbotsford demolished Colorado 5-0 and, well, moved on. to round 4, which is where they're at right now, the Western Conference Final, and they're up against the Texas Stars. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you which NHL team they're affiliated with. The Canucks won Game 1 of this series in overtime, 3-2, thanks to this goal by Christian Wolanin, and then they won Game 2, 1-0, thanks to an incredible performance from goaltender Artur Shilovs. That was his 5th shutout of the playoffs so far, 4 of which came in elimination games. This is now the 3rd year in a row we've seen this guy come in clutch in a high-pressure situation. 2023's IIHF Championship, where he won MVP of the entire tournament playing for Team Latvia. And then, obviously, in 2024, he stepped up for the injured Thatcher Demko and helped take the Vancouver Canucks all the way to Game 7 of Round 2 against the Edmonton Oilers. And now this. I think this is a pretty good sample size. It's clear this guy does not get fazed by pressure, which, by the way, is perfect if you want to play in a market like Vancouver. Oh, and I need to shout out Linus Karlsson real quick, because in my opinion, he's been Abbotsford's most consistently impactful player throughout the entire playoff run so far. He's been scoring goals, lots of goals. In fact, he's leading the team in goals and points. He's also been involved in virtually every scrum and post-whistle roughhouse that's taken place so far. He plays with a grit similar to Kiefer Sherwood, and I just hope there's room on the NHL team for him next season, because he's so fun to watch. Okay, now let me just quickly get into what happened in Game 4. Texas struck first and fast, potting one on the power play to go up 1-0 just 4 minutes into the game, but then, guess who? Linus Karlsson one-timed a beautiful pass from Max Sasson past the Stars goaltender to tie it up at 1, and then shortly after, Sasson provoked Texas defender Kyle Capobianco into taking a roughing penalty, and the Baby Canucks capitalized on the ensuing power play. 2-1 Abbotsford. Shilovs was stopping pucks and humans from crossing the goal line. Stars scored. 2-2. Stars scored. 3-2 Texas. But then, Linus Karlsson gave the puck to
Vittorio Mancini.
And
Vittorio Mancini
scored. 3-3 tie game. And then just a few minutes later, the undrafted 25-year-old forward Tristan Nielsen scored a beauty to make it 4-3 for the Canucks. Thought that was real, holy shit. Anyway, Shilovs made this ridiculous save, and then former Canuck draft pick Cole Lind, who's been a thorn in the side of Abbotsford all series, scored with 20 seconds left in the game, tying it at 4 and sending it to overtime. I don't think that sat well with Canucks forward Danila Klimovich, so naturally he cross-checked Lind in the ribs hard and then scored a disgusting goal in double overtime to win the game. Look at that! Are you kidding me? Danila Klimovich, more like "detricked ya, silly bitch." I don't know. Abbotsford is now up 3-1 in the series and 1 win away from the Calder Cup Final. Sick. Anyway, thank you to these wonderful people for supporting what I do by clicking the join button and becoming channel members. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. If that video made you laugh or cry or breathe, you're probably gonna like one of my other ones. So click one of these 2 videos right here. Just click it. Do it.